Now, Dipty's with us here on set to take us through the main news stories of the day. This is the main one, which seems to be everywhere, really. Of course, the new Prime Minister for Italy, Giuseppe Conte. This is on the front of the Figaro, but you found it in lots of other papers as well, haven't you?
Particularly the Italian press steward, Giuseppe Conte. He's a relative political novice while he's now heading the radical anti-establishment government in Italy. This after the Italian president accepted his nomination. The political novice is a tightrope walker, equilibrista. That's what the Italian paper Il Fatto Quotidiano says on its front page. Here he is literally walking a tightrope because indeed he will be heading a coalition government made up of the populist five-star movement and the far-right Northern League party. And he, in any case, has promised to be the, quote, defender or advocate defender of all Italians. From Libero, the liberal Italian daily, well, they're far more skeptical, calling Conte a rotten apple on their front page, deploring the fact that the Italian president has given the task of forming a government to a, quote, jurist who's inflated his professional experiences, of course, in reference to that scandal with NYU, denying that he ever studied there.
And the government's also campaigned, of course, on this Eurosceptic platform, Dipty. What are you seeing from the European papers today?
A caution and warning, that seems to be the theme of Le Temps, a Swiss paper. In their editorial today, they say that the first order of business for European leaders will be to remind the new Italian government of its obligations and responsibilities to Europe. In Italy, 44% of people support Europe. The rest are either against it or divided on the issue. Compare this, for instance, to 61% of French people who believe in Europe and 75% of Germans and Spaniards who believe in Europe. So for the Swiss paper Le Temps, the second order of business will be to stem the flow of Euroscepticism that's pulsing through Italy.
Going to take you to the UK now. Yulia Skripal, the daughter of the former Russian spy Sergei Skripal, has broken her silence. This is, of course, 2 months after that poisoning attack that left her in a coma.
Well, Yulia Skripal and her father were found on a public bench in Salisbury back in March, unconscious after a poison attack that's largely being blamed on the Kremlin. In a new interview, she says she's glad to be alive, lucky to be alive after a 20-day coma, as you see on the front page of Metro there, saying she basically came out of that coma to the news that there was this attempted assassination on her and her father, Sergei Skripal, a former Russian spy from Russia with luck. That's what the Sun says on its pun, in a pun kind of headline. Indeed, the Skripals were touch and go at one point. There was even doubts about whether they'd pull through. Luckily, they did, of course. In a handwritten letter, Yulia Skripal says both her and her father are going through a devastating recovery that's been extremely painful emotionally, but also physically. She does say that she wants to return home to Russia eventually, but has rebuffed demands by the Russian ambassador in London to see her, adding she does not, for the moment, wish to avail herself of their services.
Less than a month away as well, talking of Russia, of the World Cup, of course, which is going to happen there. Here in France, though, well, one footballer is making waves for his perceived unsportsmanlike behaviour.
The World Cup has not even begun yet, Stuart, and France is embroiled in this mini scandal. Adrien Rabiot, he's a midfielder for Paris Saint-Germain. Now, he was left off the 23-man squad for the World Cup that was announced by Didier Deschamps last week. He was actually named in a list of reserve players who will be called up in case of injury. Now, he's written a letter to the French Football Federation basically saying, no merci, thank you, but no thanks to the Football Federation, essentially refusing his spot on the reserve team. Now, Le Parisien wonders whether it was a Freudian slip, an error of immaturity, or was it a deliberate choice to, quote, snub the French football team. Rabiot has been described as somebody being very respectful and talented, but also hot-headed and hard-headed. In the French sports paper L'Equipe, his decision has, of course, been criticized by French coach Didier Deschamps, who says you don't refuse a spot on the French team. At this high level of professional sports, I quote, there's no room for this kind of emotion. He says it's his decision, but he'll have to deal with the fallout.
Might not be great, mightn't it? Staying in France for our last story, Dipty is looking at a push by a group of French lawmakers. Now, this is to protect the very humble chocolate croissant
That's right. We know it as pain au chocolat or the chocolate croissant if you're a foreigner. In the southwest of France, as you see in this map here, they actually call it a chocolatine. It's exactly the same thing, different term. Well, now a group of MPs have taken the issue to the National Assembly as part of a new agriculture and food bill. They want the name protected as part of their regional identity, saying the term chocolatine has historical value. As part of a similar debate, there might be, as part of a similar discussion, there might be another debate entering the National Assembly on Perrier Rondelle or Perrier Tranche, both of which refer to sparkling water served with a slice of lemon. Clearly, very important issues being debated in the National Assembly.
I thought it was a Perrier Citron, but there you go.
I also thought that too. But
well, there you go. You see, we don't even know when we live here. Thanks, Dipsy with the papers on France 24.